Welcome back to the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I am Colin,
I'm Craig.
and today, first off, we don't have that other guy with us. Today, we're talking about the newest MonsterVerse TV show. That's an Apple Plus, whatever the
Apple
Apple
TV
Apple
Plus
TV Plus
Plus.
exclusive plus. Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. I think whenever it was announced, maybe last year, Dale and I were pretty ambivalent about it.
I mean,
It's
no one was positive. It's so
Yeah, I don't know
awful.
why the premise that they gave, the little description, it takes place after the 2014 movie. Why are we rehashing that again? But I don't know. Before we dive into it even more, Craig, let's give our first impressions. I don't like it. I don't like the show. Oh, and reminder, this is only the first 5 episodes we're covering. The first 5. So with that being
Yes.
said, I don't like the show at all. I kind of hate it.
Yeah, I think it's really bad too. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that we agreed to do this for the podcast, I would have stopped watching after episode one.
Well, I had no interest in watching it. I only suggested it for the podcast
Well,
because,
that too. Yeah, I wasn't gonna watch it.
yeah, I had no interest in watching it. The characters, surprisingly, are really bad. I don't know who wrote this. Guy named Chris Black. Let's look at his filmography. Has a bunch of non-achievements. Okay, that's fine. Star Trek Enterprise, he wrote. Yeah, whatever. But a bunch
Really?
of non-achievements. The point is,
Really? Then
the
Star
human
Trek Enterprise, I
characters.
liked that.
Oh, good for you. The human characters are really bad. They're boring, and in a way, the storyline itself is derivative and it contradicts the previous installments, which is a problem because it takes place in between 2014 one and King of the Monsters.
It also like kind of butts heads with Kong Skull Island because that takes place in the 70s, while the
Yes.
past stuff takes place in the 50s.
Ironically, the legacy they're trying to prop up is ruining everything.
So is that really a shock? These people are incompetent.
Yeah. So, first things first, uh, they call the 2014 events G Day. And that was very reminiscent to me, Craig, of that horrible Avengers game where they call it like A Day. I never played it, but I remember hearing about that, so I kept on thinking about that.
But at least I remember in the game it was what I didn't play the game because it looked awful, but it was what one of the helicarriers blew up or something. It was like that's it.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
It's
But
like oh,
we have Kate, who is the grandson of Bill Randa, or excuse me, granddaughter of Bill Randa, who was in Kong Skull Island, played by John Goodman. We'll get to his character in a little bit, but she suffers from PTSD because she witnessed firsthand Godzilla crashing through the Golden Gate Bridge, and her little short bus of children get killed as Godzilla's passing through it.
honestly,
And
I'm kind of surprised they showed that because usually it's like a no-no to show kids dying.
yeah, I mean, I was
I
surprised
mean,
too,
I'm
but
not going to give it credit. It's just I'm just more shocked.
yeah. And she's pretty much on a quest to figure out where her father went, and we soon find out that her father is kind of living a double life where he has a whole other family in Japan, so she has a half brother in Japan.
Oh, can we talk about how much of a scumbag this guy is?
Yes, he is father of the year material, Craig.
I mean, it's bad enough you basically, abandon your one family to like be absorbed in your work. But you were like abandoning two families to be absorbed in your work, like
He,
absentee father for two different families. Like that's got to
yeah.
be an achievement. Usually, people can only abandon or not pay attention to one of their families. I'm just shocked he could find time for two of them.
And who knows, there could be more families.
That would be hilarious. Like there's a third child, third family.
So what the first couple episodes do is they have like the A and B storyline. The A storyline is in 2015, and the B storyline is in the 50s, where it has Kate and Kentaro's grandparents, which are Bill and I forget what the woman's name is. Kyoko? Yeah, I'm looking at the
Is it
Wikipedia.
Keiko?
Yeah, Keiko. Bill and Keiko are married, and they're Kate and Kentaro's grandparents. It has them doing their little nonsense with Lee Shaw, who is played by Kurt Russell's son, Wyatt Russell. And they're kind of it's really not important what they're doing. the B storyline at least.
I mean,
This,
it's
yeah, you
okay.
go.
It's just I feel like that should have been the focus, like how
Yeah,
they.
it's even though it's the B storyline, it is the best part of the show, and it's barely in the show. Like they stopped doing it after episode three, at least from until episode five. So episodes four and five, they didn't have any flashback with the '50s stuff.
which which made those episodes really hard to sit through.
Yes. Now I don't know if you want to go by episode, or you just want to talk about it as a whole.
I guess as a whole, because it's so bad. Like a lot of the problems like blend together.
So let's talk about Bill Randa. I was having this conversation with Daniel, and I think I told you too. I rewatched the beginning of Kong Skull Island because I'm pretty sure when I was watching this, I'm like, yeah, Bill Randa, from what he said in that movie, like it contradicts with this movie. So he said specifically that yeah, he believes that he survived the USS Lawton, which was attacked by Godzilla in the 40s, I believe. He was the only survivor. I don't think he got a clear look at Godzilla, but he knew something attacked them.
You know, it was like giant monsters exist or
Yeah.
something.
In the 50s, he said specifically that he knows that the government is covering up something. Those tests weren't tests, they're trying to kill something. This show very stupidly shows him at the Bikini Atoll tests when they're trying to kill
Yeah,
Godzilla.
the Castle Bro.
I'm like, what? That it kind of makes his whole journey in Kong Skull Island moot because he only goes there to have concrete proof that there's monsters out there that exist. He doesn't need the proof if he's there witnessing it in the 50s. It makes
Yeah,
no sense.
well, that's what I was gonna tell. Like, I think I mentioned this too. Like, I feel like they only saw 2014 Godzilla and like, maybe had like a rough outline from like 10 years ago of like where they were planning the universe, and that's what they went off of. Because like with the Marvel movies, they'll have like I guess an outline of what's gonna happen in the movies. Like they don't. So like if there's a sequel, they can kind of work around it.
Yeah, so it's not a
That's what it
disaster like
almost.
this.
Well, yeah, because like I just don't understand like how they could make such obvious mistakes. Like,
Yeah, so yeah,
he said he wasn't there, and was he there? Was he not there? Like, did he, was he hit in the head or something, and he forgot?
yeah, they discovered the wreckage of the USS Lawton in like the middle of a jungle.
Yeah, I think I think they're in the Philippines,
Yes.
but I don't get so like
Did Godzilla
again.
drag it out of the ocean and into the middle of a jungle?
Well, I think they were implying that it wasn't Godzilla; it was that dragon that they found. I think they were implying that brought it there.
So it was never Godzilla.
I think that's what the implication was.
Unless I'm misremembering this, I could have sworn Bill Randa was definitely talking about Godzilla in Kong Skull
Well,
Island at
that's
least.
yes, he was. But for this one, I think they were implying it was that dragon because it was like drag there. And again, I don't know how Godzilla could drag it. Because look again, look like it was dragged, like you saw like the drag marks. Godzilla wouldn't drag it. It would probably get stuck in his spines and fall off
Yeah.
if he were to bring it somewhere.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think they implied it was the dragon. Again, contradicting uh, Kong Skull Island.
Yes, and they did mention they had like little breadcrumbs. You probably caught it about the entrance to the Hollow Earth. I forget what episode it was, but they mentioned something like that.
Wasn't it the fifth episode?
Was it? Perhaps. But my takeaway was that it feels like a course correction that they are heavily influenced by the 2014 one, and then they're heavily influenced by Godzilla vs Kong because they have to make sure it kind of somewhat flows in there, but and it feels like they're going to ignore King of the Monsters entirely.
Which is very odd because that's still the best one, but
And I think
alas.
the biggest problem I have with this terrible show is that they're painting Monarch like the villains. And yes, Monarch was covering up the tests in the 50s, but they're only doing it to study and kind of, like understand what these organisms are.
Well, that it's like you can't just sit there and say like, "Oh, giant monsters exist," and it's like people are like, "Oh, I don't believe you unless there's proof," and then or they always say, "Oh, we don't want to cause mass panic and stuff," blah blah blah. Like you can't just sit there and say like, "Oh, there are these giant monsters out there that could destroy everything in the snap of their fingers." Okay, bye. Have a nice day.
Yeah, it's like, what is the show trying to say when it's like saying that the government should tell everybody about this, right? But then it's kind of like the reason why they're not telling anybody is because of, like you said, the mass panic. It's in the best interest of society to keep it under wraps the best they can, you know?
Also, like, what's they gonna accomplish by telling everybody, especially like in the modern day stuff? Like, we got to get these files out there and like expose them. Like, everyone knows Godzilla exists now. Everyone knows giant monsters exist. Like,
Yeah.
what could you possibly expose anymore at this point? That they've known about it for decades. I mean, they've been trying to, deter them, and they were doing a decent job until the Muto got out.
And that was like a freak thing. They tried killing the Muto and everything like backfired.
Yeah.
And they had Kurt Russell in the fifth episode. I remember this distinctly because I actually watched it today. He was being interviewed by the position lower than Sarazawa. It's like the something director.
Deputy directors, like
Yeah,
some
deputy director.
executive deputy director.
Yeah, of Monarch. So she's not the main leader. And he says like, "Oh, the best option you guys had was let them fight."
I hated that line.
But
I visit like I cringe. I want to stop watching.
yeah, it was like that's not the point of the line. The line was saying that I think that Sarazawa, word for word, almost said that the arrogance of man is thinking nature is in our control, not the other way around. Let them fight. He's
Yeah, kind
saying,
of missing the point of it, saying, yeah, it's out of our hands. Like
yeah,
we can't control. Yeah, this is like that's that's why when they changed the name from like monsters to titans, implying that they were gods above us, that they're again above us, that they have more power over us. That was kind of the point of the name change. But all this stuff goes over people's heads. Humans are their own gods. We're our own gods. God's dead. All that stuff. Because these people are stupid and never read a book, and I don't like them.
that's how I really feel about the showrunner. But yeah, it's so mind-numbingly stupid when they probably thought like that was a zinger line, like, oh yeah, I'll show them. But it's like, yeah, it misses the whole point of what Sarazawa was saying. He wasn't saying, yeah, let them fight, it'll be fun. He didn't say that at
These
all.
are These are one of those lines where like these people think they're really clever, but in reality, they're really showing how little they understand and little they know when they do stuff like
It's
this.
the kind of line that somebody says to themselves in the shower after they like embarrass themselves in front of somebody, and that's their comeback. It's their comeback
Jerk
hours
store.
later.
The jerk store.
Yeah.
I don't think you've seen Seinfeld, but that was like an episode where someone insulted George Costanza and he goes, "Oh yeah, well the jerk store called. They're running out of you."
Yeah,
That
it's
was his
like
comeback hours later.
it's like it's so stupid. I hated that so much. Like that stupid line. It almost ruined it for me. And I mean, to be honest with you, like the whole premise kind of ruined it for me anyway. But like it's just, what are you doing? Like that's the most
Again,
iconic line in the MonsterVerse.
well, but that too. But again, the big thing is you missed the point of the movie. You missed the point of the conflict. It's these giant monsters. Nature's reclaiming stuff where it's out of our hands.
Did
We have
Lee
all these powerful
Shaw?
weapons, and we
Yeah,
can't do a thing about it.
Lee Shaw was there when Godzilla was nuked, and then he sees Godzilla 50 years later in San Francisco. Do you think anything could have killed him?
That too.
It's like they didn't. I mean, this is obvious. They didn't clearly think it at all through.
I
Very
mean, I
clearly,
don't
they
know if they
didn't.
even want to think it through because again, they don't really care about that kind of stuff. To them, these are just animals that we could kill on a whim. We're our own gods. It kind of again, you missed the point of the original.
Yeah.
And also, speaking of 2014, which obviously
Yes.
we'll go back to a lot, I never want to hear a single person ever complain about that family dynamic ever again. This show is a million times worse in every
Oh, you're talking
possible
about the
way.
Russell family?
No, not the Russell, the boring soldier man
Oh,
son. I never want to hear
oh.
another person complain about him or any other family dynamic ever again. This is a million times worse.
Yeah. I mean,
Because at least in those movies, you have to sit through for what, like a fraction of a 2 hour movie. This we're getting beaten every episode. It's the plot A of every single episode. It is so bad.
Well, the thing also is that I mean anybody could have predicted this. That Godzilla's not in the show at all. Really, he's not in it. He is in it in the episode one in the flashback, and that's about it. And I know we're only 5 episodes in, and maybe they'll backload his um his screen appearance. But the first five is just it's no Godzilla. It's the biggest tease ever. And again, going back to 2014, you could say he was a tease in that movie, but at least they showed him, you know?
But again, a lot of the shots too, like they were showing like, he was walking through Honolulu, like, you saw like, like how big he was compared to all the buildings. He was coming onto land, you saw the water like receding and rising.
Yeah, like a hurricane. Yeah.
But which is at least cool. I mean, this is just, oh yeah, Godzilla destroyed San Francisco, but how did it affect me? I got PTSD, boo-hoo.
It affected everybody that lived that.
Yeah, most people were able to get along.
The Russell family, right?
Mhm.
But
Well, yeah,
they're not gonna mention them at all. I have a feeling because they're
I mean, it
Monarch
makes
too.
sense. Yeah, but I mean, at least they couple again. They like left Monarch, right? Or at least I know
Kyle
Mark did.
Chandler did, yeah.
I don't know, just I doubt they'll have any Serizawa references.
Well, they only mentioned his name once, I think. Besides saying the stupid "let them fight,"
Yeah, I don't
and
know. I
even
just
in King of the Monsters, remember when Dr. Rick Stanton said like, "Oh, we're gonna have a little bit of the Serizawa, let them fight," and then Mark even says, "No, we're gonna join them this time. We're gonna join the fight." That movie didn't miss the point of the let them fight either, even though it was like a supposed to be like a dumb line, like, "Oh, it's gonna be like the let them fight thing again." God, I hate this thing.
but
It's like it's written by amateurs. I hate it so much.
well, again, it's people who don't understand what they're adapting. Because again, like this could be like this doesn't have to be a monster show. This is like a generic show with monsters in it. Like it's just a generic, oh, we need to find our lost dad who's probably gonna have nothing important to say at the end of the 10 episode slog they drag us through
So let's
with
speculate, right?
monsters sprinkled in.
Yeah, let's speculate. What do you think he is going to reveal that is so bad against Monarch? Again, Monarch and all the other stuff. I should say the first three movies because I don't count Godzilla vs Kong. That's trash. Monarch was never really the bad guy. Maybe they were shady, especially in 2014. They were trying to cover everything up. But in 2019, they're the heroes in King of the Monsters. They're actively trying to stop when Emma gets kidnapped. They're trying to find Jonah. They're trying to stop the monsters from getting out. They're trying to stop Ghidorah. It makes no sense that they're trying to treat Monarch as villains.
Well, yeah, that's like again, that was just really frustrating because I don't like it's such a there's probably a term for it, but like a clash in what our perceived perception is because again, every appearance before, even if you want to include Godzilla vs. Kong, like, they've always been the good guys.
Yeah.
Every time we've seen them, they're the good guys. So now they're all of a sudden these bad guys, and even in the past, they're still considered good guys because they're trying to, protect these creatures. Like, why are they bad all of a sudden? Like, what happened in that 1 year that made them so bad? It makes Sears Owl look bad
Yeah, I mean
because they became so rotten under his watch.
they were trying to kill Godzilla with the nukes. It wasn't like they were just like sitting there like, oh yeah, Godzilla, destroy that town. Yeah, do it. Like they're being proactive.
And they were trying to like what lure the monsters away from populated cities. It wasn't like, again, they weren't trying to like, oh yeah, go destroy San Francisco. It'd be really funny. It's a cool, I mean, cool prank, guys.
Yeah, it makes Serizawa look like the biggest schmuck possible, and everyone. I think the general consensus is he's the best character in the MonsterVerse. It just makes him look like an idiot. It's like, oh yeah, he
You got a
doesn't know
problem with our
that.
cool new characters.
Yeah, he doesn't know that Monarch is rotten to the core. Apparently, I don't know. It's just trash.
Because I mean, they literally were like kidnapping and intimidating like young adults, like almost children.
Yeah. So another thing, I mean, I guess I'll let it slide, but in the beginning, I think this is the very beginning of episode one. Bill Randa is running in Skull Island, and he throws this bag over, that has all these like not documents, like recordings and stuff. He throws it over in the ocean, and then,
It does have documents, as we learn.
well, I mean, like I thought it was recordings too, right?
Yeah.
And then it gets picked up by some fisherman, who I believe was their dad, Kentaro, right? That was the
Was
implication.
it? I honestly don't
Well,
remember.
they got into possession. They Kate opened up in the grandfather's house the thing, the bag.
I know he got a hold of it. I don't remember. Do you? Because again, this is like a quick shot, and not too happy about it because I was watching this show. But if it doesn't matter.
So we have three main characters. We have Kate, who is Randa's granddaughter, and Hiroshi's father, or Hiroshi's daughter, my bad. Kentaro, who's Kate's half brother, and then I
Well,
forget what
I
the
guess
other.
the American one, and I guess the Japanese one. Because he had two families.
Yeah, who's the other girl? Who's Hacker Girl? What's her name?
Uh, let's go to Wikipedia because I have no idea. May.
May. Okay, I didn't even know that. They're the three main characters. Oh yeah, it says it right there in front of me. May Aloy Hewitt. And how does Monarch know that they're getting into files from the 70s?
Well, yeah, this is like all the technobabble junk that they throw. Like, I don't know why couldn't it be like physical files? I don't understand why. Because I don't understand how you could have thousands upon thousands of like documents on this little cassette tape. Like I don't understand. Like it looks like they had like a terabyte of information stored in this like these little cassette tapes, and apparently they have to come to her because she's like not just a hacker, but could hack audio off these tapes. Like I don't get why would you store information like that in an audio format?
Well, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And then she's just saying, "Oh yeah, like all these old encryption stuff. Like most of the encryption stuff that we use is old, and it's supposed to be public because if it's public, that means everyone's trying to crack it. And if you can't crack it, if everybody gets to crack it and they can't break it, that means it's good to use. So like all this stuff like it's old, and yeah, people still know what they're talking about writing stuff.
Well, this is my impression of the technology from the 70s that I think those kind of like disk files, right? I don't want to say analog, but it's like they're not really digital, right? They're not really.
Well, cassette tapes, and those are like magnetic tapes.
Yeah. It's like I don't think they know how the technology worked back then in the 70s.
Of course not.
I don't think you could just plug a cord into a tape from your computer. I think you need definitely some kind of process to like record it onto something that then you can access to the computer. That makes
It was just
sense.
really complicated. Yeah, it was just really complicated and really stupid. Like that was like I hate with the technobabble stuff. Like I really wish they would just stop.
Let me put it to you this way, or to our viewers. It's kind of like having a mini DV tape that you film on, right? You can't just connect your computer to the mini DV tape. You need something that can record the footage onto the computer, and then you can get it. They couldn't even do something like that. I think she immediately like hooked onto it, and then
Well,
they
yeah,
did.
and she like said like I went to some like online server that decrypted it. I was like, what? And then that's how it got caught by Mark, but it only encrypted part of it, and then that's how I knew it worked. I'm like, that's not how it works. Usually, when you encrypt something, you have to like, well, if it's like one file, that's fine. But like if like you're encrypting, like you can't just un encrypt and check part of a file. You have to check the whole thing.
Well,
Like that's
she's
not
a
how it
really good
works.
hacker.
Because when you like, if you like, compress stuff, you have to check all of it at once because that's kind of how the algorithms work. You can't just check parts of it usually.
I guess you're not as good of a hacker as May is. I don't know what to tell you.
That's why she's like poor or whatever and like a criminal.
It may seem like we're getting hung up about the little things, but it's like those kind of
It
matter.
was really distracting.
Yeah, it makes. And I'm not a big tech guy, but at least I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. If I can see that, then I feel like the average person can think that. Because like they have,
This didn't make
you
sense.
said
Like
like
where they got this
terabytes
casino.
of data, and in the 70s, I'm pretty sure they didn't have storage for terabytes of data. Their computers could had like megabytes of storage back then. How does it have like
Like,
terabytes of data on it?
yeah, like the closest thing, what, like a floppy disk? They have like
Probably kilobytes.
kilobytes
Yeah.
or barely megabytes of data, which I don't think people understand how small that is. Like that's only like one or two files, like big files, right? Maybe. And you're apparently you're having like thousands of, secret documents that were scanned, perfectly. It wasn't even scanners yet. Taken, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And like
Well,
they're like, I don't know why
yeah.
this guy wants the file so badly.
For reference, also, the computer that sent uh, our friends to space, the whatever, Apollo 11, I think it had a memory capacity of megabytes. It was very not powerful by today's standards, right? I think I read something
Yeah,
like
it
that.
was very limited.
Like a TI 34 calculator was more powerful, is more powerful than that computer.
I don't know the exact numbers, but you're probably right.
I don't know. It's super distracting stuff like that. They try to gloss over. And to your point, um, and to your point, why is Monarch so concerned about what's on this file? What is on it that is so incriminating?
Well, the best part too is we saw some images, and it doesn't look like something they wouldn't have a copy of, right? Like we saw the picture of their grandmother Keiko standing in the foot of Godzilla or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they would have a copy of that. We saw like what a picture of like Sasquatch or something.
Yeah, they had like
Like
a
again,
double on. Is that Sasquatch?
yeah, I'm pretty sure those are things they have copies of. So I don't understand, and I know like I have no hope for this show. So I know what the big reveal is going to be something incredibly stupid, like oh, there's a secret file that someone hid on Godzilla
Yeah,
or the Hollow
probably.
Earth, and it's like then okay, but
I
like
think it's
why?
gonna be the Hollow Earth. I think that's what the main lead up is. That's just
I
me.
just don't. I just don't think anything's gonna be worth our time.
No, definitely not. So another thing I have a problem, Craig, is that I think the a big problem with the show and with it taking place when it does is that I think ultimately our heroes' journey with whatever information they're trying to get will be moot because we know all the info of Monarch is gets published publicly at the end of King of the Monsters. You know?
I mean, that's another good point. Well, also, I know like part of it is they gotta find their father who is a huge dirtbag that, screwed over two families and gave two people daddy issues, but it's just gonna be pointless. I know we're talking about like Monarch 2 being bad guys. I know we haven't gotten to this character, but like why is Lee Shaw under house arrest? Like what is he like why is he so dangerous? This 90-year-old man.
Yeah, okay, so I actually want to talk about that. They imply that he was exposed by something, so that's why he looks the way he does, because they keep on saying, like, was this guy like 90? And to be honest with you, I didn't think about it. But I'm like, yeah, that guy's like 90.
I mean,
And
Kurt
he looks
Russell's in
like
his
70, he
70s.
looks like 70-year-old Kurt Russell. But a 70-year-old man and a 90-year-old man are very different looking.
Yeah, I mean,
Unless you're
I
Bill
didn't think
Shatner.
when I'm saying maybe just I don't know, took good care of. Like I didn't think anything of it. Like, but well, the fact they brought it, I thought maybe it was just a joke because they're saying, "Oh, this guy's just good looking." But I guess they
They're
brought
not
it up like
wrong.
multiple times, so I guess it's gonna be somewhat. It'll be what do they call it? The
I think,
setup and payoff,
yeah, I think that's
but the
why
payoff will be
maybe
something stupid.
I think maybe that's why. Okay, here's my theory. Okay, for reference, I only stopped at episode 5. I think he was exposed by something in the Hollow Earth. That's why they're watching over him so they can see the effects of it on humans.
That'd be really
I
stupid.
think that's why they're like experimenting on or whatever. He's on house arrest.
Maybe him and Bill Randa got exposed to different things. That's why Bill Randa looks so bad in this like Kong Skull Island, why he looks so good in King of the Monsters or the show. Lee Shaw.
I mean, he wasn't even really that bad of a guy. And I mean, yes, he did lie in at least in
No,
Kong
no,
Skull
no.
Island.
I mean like why he looks so bad. Like he looked
Are you talking about?
he aged.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they didn't even attempt to de-age John Goodman.
Yeah, that's why he looks so old, even though he's supposed to be what, like 50, 60.
I mean, I don't know
And
how
this
old.
guy's 90 and he's like looks
Yeah,
better than him.
that is true. I mean, I don't even know how young John Goodman is right now. I have no idea. Let me look it up real quick. He's actually younger than Kurt Russell.
Really?
Yeah, only by like a couple months, I believe. Kurt Russell was also born in 51, but his birthday, he's 72. Oh, no, he's a year older. John Goodman was born in 52. Kurt Russell was 1951. Okay, that's interesting. I thought you were talking about his character-wise, not his character just aging horribly.
Because I mean, let's say he was in his 20s because he was served in World War II, mid 20s. So like, let's
Yeah.
say he's born in 1920. I mean, he'd only be like 52 in Skull Island.
They should have made him look a little older in the 50s. Like, that's a very easy thing to solve.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think these people care about stuff like that. Like, I mean, clearly
Yeah.
they don't care. I mean, it's a terrible show.
Yeah, that's true. What else was I going to say? Do you have thoughts too? What else bothers you about the show?
I mean, it's really, I mean, should we start talking into like the main two characters?
About Anna? Not Anna, Kate?
Yeah, Kate and Kentaro.
Yeah, lead the way. Oh, yes. I have something to say about Kentaro too, but yeah, go ahead.
I think they're both awful.
Uh,
Uh,
you are correct.
I mean, like, I think the Three Stooges are all awful, but I can't like. They're supposed to be our leads, and I think they are horrible people, and I really wish that we would stop seeing their face on the show. Because
I
like,
think, yeah, you go. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
because it's always like these characters have something stupid, like, oh, I've got PTSD from Godzilla. It's like,
So does everybody else
okay,
that survived San Francisco.
yeah, but hers is special because she saw her students die. It's like, yeah, a lot of people died, buddy.
I mean, Kyle Chandler saw his son get squished by Godzilla, so
It just comes off as like. I don't know, like very whiny. Like we saw like her relationship with her mother. Her mother was the one who told her to go to Tokyo to find her father, and she's like, "Mom, you don't like me. You made me." Like your mom's like, "You were like sitting in your room like crying all day. Like I wanted you to get out of the house." Like, "No, Mom, you were being mean. You're a bad mother." It's like this is like a teenager talking. Like these
yeah.
people are supposed to be like in their mid-20s and they sound like teenagers. Like these aren't adults. Like usually when there's some kind of trauma, you have like a bit of arrested development. But it's, like, was she traumatized like 15 years before the show started?
I
Because like
mean,
she has like a
yeah.
child.
Compare the trauma that Kate has to what our friend Shikishima has in Godzilla Minus One, and it's night and day. His name was Koichi. I think it was Koichi Shikishima. I forgot his first name. It's
Yeah,
night and day in terms of writing and how they deal with PTSD.
because you felt for him. Like that's like legitimate survivor's guilt, and he gets crapped on because he was supposed to be a kamikaze pilot who didn't die. That's doing something well done. It's not like over the top. It's not dramatic. He's not whining about it every second.
Yeah,
Like
he
yeah, he kept it to
likes.
himself
Yeah,
and
he
kind of broke.
sulks, but yeah, it's to himself, and then he reaches his breaking point. But yeah, that is so much more well done. And I don't think this is a controversial to say, but he survived something way more traumatic than Kate ever did. He survived World War II. He survived a war, first off.
Yeah, especially as a kamikaze pilot.
Yeah. And he survived a Godzilla attack, which was minor in scale, but that just added to his survivor's guilt and his
The movie
PTSD.
was
He
done.
survives Ginza.
Yeah.
So,
Like what the movie's done too, like when he survived the attack on Odo Island, where like, you go like he was guilty because he was one of the few survivors, and like they were trying to say it's his fault because he didn't shoot, he froze, and like all these people died. It was much more personal. This just feels so impersonal. Like we see a random school bus of children die. It's like, oh, whatever. We don't see any of these kids. We don't see the relationship with her. Like, I thought she was a substitute teacher, but apparently reading the Wikipedia, she's a full-time teacher.
yeah.
Like it's the difference between good movies and very bad TV.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like good writing and terrible, embarrassing writing. Because I feel like they tried to place Kate in one of the biggest set pieces of the MonsterVerse, and that is the Golden Gate Bridge attack. And they're probably thinking, all right, what if we have somebody on the Golden Gate Bridge? Oh, this is great. This is great. she sees her students. We know there's kids on the bus because we saw kids in 2014 on the bus on the bridge. Okay, write that in. Write that in. Let's have her like witness these kids just fall and when Godzilla's crossing through the bridge, which is kind of the military's fault. They made him go into the bridge. He just appeared right next to it. They were
Well, that's
shooting
also a
at him.
good point.
Yeah.
But I think that's also the difference too, where the children dying were like incidental. It wasn't like Godzilla was purposely going after them, and you could say it was directly a call like her fault. Like with Koichi, it was a kind of, I mean, granted, I don't think he would could have killed Godzilla, but there was more closely related to his fault. It was more personal.
Yeah, because they
Because
said he was only one that was, I guess you could say, fit enough to operate a weapon. Because they were like, "Oh, we're just mechanics. Like, what do we know
yeah,
about
we're just
weapons?"
also you've operated the plane like.
I think the beginning with Kate is a sad attempt at was it's the word pathos. We're like, well, she watched a bunch of kids die, and it's like, this is probably gonna sound heartless, but I don't care in terms of a movie because we don't know who these kids are. They're just trying to be like, oh, well, kids died, automatic sadness.
Yeah,
It's like, well, no, you
oh,
have
yeah,
to
like it's like,
know
oh, her
who
dog died.
died. Yeah, you have to know who. There has to be some attachment to the audience for them to care. Because if there isn't, you're just gonna be like, oh, okay.
Yes, I imagine kids died in G-Day. I mean, imagine a lot of people died.
Imagine homeless people died too. Like, geez, everyone died that day.
It happens.
It happens when you have three monsters fighting in a city.
And the military was trying to like, push him in a direction.
Yeah, I don't know.
She's awful. And like I don't like some of the remarks she always says. Like I remember when she first met Kentaro, and she was like, "Oh, you were probably like an engineer to appease daddy." I'm like, "You've got daddy issues too. Like, who are you to talk?"
I feel like they try to make her like the smartest person in the room. She's always got like a one-liner, a zinger to say to somebody, but it
Yeah,
just
the snarky dialogue.
yeah, it makes her unlikable and just dreadful to be around. How can you root for somebody who's always making like personal attacks to other people? Other people who are trying to console her. She's
The
the
best part
only
too is
one that is like just like annoying. Everyone else is I don't know. I
well,
hate
best
her.
part too is like when she like attacked her half brother. He was trying to like extend the olive branch by trying to find their father's office, and then she's like attacking him personally. And it's like
Yeah.
a very weird attack too, like, oh, you became an engineer. Like that's usually a good profession. Like, oh, you became a lawyer, you became a doctor. What a loser. Like that's not really a good insult.
Good one. Cuz
Oh, you're a millionaire.
oh, you're successful.
You only trying to appease daddy.
I think that appeased any father.
But again, too, it rings hollow, and she has just as big daddy issues. I mean, she's worse because she's a cheater just like her father. So, like, clearly she has more issues than him.
Yeah, that was very bizarre. Where in episode 5, where she's with another woman, she has her girlfriend, I guess you could say. They were getting coffee together, and they made very sure for the audience to see that it was LGBTQ inclusive.
It
There's
was
a
like
giant rainbow flag above it,
in San Francisco, there's like so many rainbow stuff.
just in case you didn't get the what the message was there.
They showed like them kissing for like a good like 5, 10 seconds.
But that was very bizarre. Where she has her teacher girlfriend, and then she's in an apartment with another girl. It's like what? I thought that was a flashback to like another flashback. It made
See,
no
I didn't think
sense.
anything of it because I thought, oh well, they're probably like poly or whatever, all this weird stuff. So that's what I thought. But no, I guess she's just a cheater like her father that they want to find so badly.
Like father, like daughter, I guess.
I trust, am I really better than my dad? It's like, no, you're not. At least your dad did something important.
Yeah,
You're
it's just
just like a lowly school teacher.
so with Kentaro also, he is an artist,
Yeah.
and I don't understand this one part where in one of his interpretive art, I don't know, house things, whatever the exhibits, I couldn't think of the word. He has a sheet of paper that has certain holes on it, right? And then when they go back into San Francisco, which is essentially ground zero, they sneak in with the mother's help. and they go into his old office, old Hiroshi's office. They hold up that giant map with all the circles on it, and then Kentaro's like, "Wait a minute! From one of my art pieces, there's these holes on this paper. Let me hold it up to the sunrise."
Mm.
I did not get that at all. It's really far fetched for them to piece that all together. Because, from my understanding, it's just art, and modern art is trash. That is objectively true. I don't know.
For real, for real.
I was like, what? On God, I was like, what? And then we have Hacker Girl May, who she's another one that she has like those snarky comebacks all the time.
I just wanted going back to Kentaro, I wanted to say,
Oh
besides
yes,
being
yes,
an
yes.
artist, which I always hate because I feel like that's always the writer's like mouthpiece character when they always talk about art, like art is so great. It's like freeing, it's expressive. It's like, okay, well, this is clearly the writer just talking down to the audience, how important their job is. But besides the art stuff, which is always a huge con, I think he's easily the best out of the Three Stooges because he seems the most active and the nicest.
He genuinely cares, and he's not overly cynical like Kate. I don't even want to say Kate's cynical. She's just mean.
Just a bad egg.
Yeah, he wants to find his father.
Yeah, like he was, trying to help. Like he was talking to Shaw, like, we'll follow you. And everyone's like, oh my God, gotta be mean to this old man.
It's
Or like,
elder abuse.
or what was it? When they crashed the plane, of course that pilot dies. Like, I always thought that in shows. Like, hey, you're my best friend. We've been traveling together for a long time. We've been to so many crazy adventures, right, Indy? Right, Lee? And then of
Indiana
course they die
Jones.
like
Yeah.
immediately.
Dial Destiny. Indy, my old friend. Guy gets
Well,
like killed in front of him.
Indy, oh, we've said so many crazy things. Oh, that's so crazy.
I
Then,
mean, this guy didn't die, Craig. He got frozen to death by a giant monster.
yeah, then the plane just got destroyed.
Yeah.
I hate that trope. Anyway, when Kentaro went for the flare to like shoot it to distract the monster, of course that I forget which one of the other two Stooges like chastised him for it. But it was like at least he's trying to do something. You're just standing there screaming, like not doing anything. He's at
Yeah.
least trying to be active. The old man, he's 90 years old. He can't do much. He's trying to step up and help everybody, and you're giving him crap. It's like, do you not realize he helped save your life?
Yeah,
Like I'm
it's
so ungrateful. Like it bothers me because just imagine you save someone's life. Like, well, you could have hurt yourself saving my life. I would just like shove her to the ground, like here, get her.
that's when you just like you clap you like you dust your hands off and just walk away. You figure
Yeah,
out
it's
yourself. I was
so
gonna say,
ungrateful.
yeah, uh Hacker Girl May, she's also pretty bad because she is has those snarky comments. She's also comes across as ungrateful and just mean. And I don't know what the writers are thinking when you're trying to make characters, likable characters at that, because they're on the screen like 90% of the time.
Well, I think it's like empowering, like putting people down, but like
It's
that's not
not.
empowering. Anybody can put someone down. It's a good person lifts people up. Like that's what you want. Like when you think of, like people always joke like Optimus Prime, like he was so inspirational. He wanted you to fight the Decepticons in the theater. Like that's because he was, inspiring. He was empowering. That's what you want in like a good person. You don't want someone like constantly. Like, that's what villains do. They always put you down.
Yeah. It's like the main bad guy is like how he's treating his grunts. Like he's just like spitting on them essentially.
I mean, I not to always go back to this, but I always think of like Lord of the Rings. Like, if you ever read the books, how
Jesus Craig, it's not all about Lord of the Rings.
have you read about like how Saruman treated Greenmount? How he was like always like kicking him and like smacking him. Like that's
That's
what
what
you think
yeah.
of.
That's what May and Kate are doing verbally to Kentaro. Like they treat him like trash.
We're just kicking him all the time. It's like this man saved your life, and you're like, he saved your life twice with the flare, and then he got the helicopter.
Well, then they're like, "Oh yeah, thanks, you really saved us because now we're in Monarch's hands." It's like you got a better idea.
Oh, you'd rather just die by that I don't know what to call it, but that ice creature.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Well, especially to the girl like Meg, she was dying of hypothermia.
yeah, she was literally dying.
So like, what are you gonna do? Like, not call Monarch and just die? And she's complaining how she wants to go home. With like, okay, I saved you. I'm gonna let you go home now.
Yeah,
And of course, I'm grateful.
it's just trash. This is horrible. The characters are, I would say they're at an all-time low in the MonsterVerse. I'd say they're worse than Godzilla vs Kong, and I didn't think that's possible.
I mean, they were bad just because of the movie. I don't think they were themselves a lot bad.
No, they were pretty bad in Godzilla vs Kong.
Okay, well, I was thinking of like the scientists. You're right, because like was it Bernie? He
Bernie,
was
yeah,
bad. Yeah, and they're
and their
the guy from
ragtag
Deadpool.
team, yeah,
Yeah, but they
they're
were
pretty
bad,
bad.
but they were bad like in a cartoony way. Like they didn't feel like they fit in the movie. This is bad because they are just so bad. Like these people, like you wish bad things happen to them. You get
Just
Schadenfreude
kind of
from like
hoping they
watching them
would die,
suffer.
get her out of there. So
No,
I
of
think
course not.
I think a big problem also is the marketing of it. It was false marketing. It made it seem like Lee Shaw was going to be the lead, not these three, or really these two miserable, ungrateful losers that we have to follow for 90% of the show.
Yeah, because again, I don't really watch too many trailers anymore. But that was the impression I got. Like, because you look at the poster, those two are on it. You
Yeah,
got
that
Godzilla on the
yeah,
poster.
I'm looking at it right now. That's like the gimmick. You're gonna have, like I said, the A and B story. The A story is modern times. B story is the 50s. That's your gimmick. You have father son.
Playing the same character.
Yeah, same character, and it's he's almost like an afterthought. And now, granted, he has more involvement by episode 5, so maybe he's in it more. But I don't know. It is I don't like this show, Craig.
No, I'm trying to find like, does people actually like it? Because I know there's people who will eat up slop, but I just I just have a hard time imagining like why would anyone like this show? I feel like even if the show is as good as it could be, I feel like with just the way they're telling like it's mostly set in the modern day stuff, I just don't feel like you can tell a satisfying story because it's like the problem with like tie-in comics. No one reads them because nothing about them matters. That's the fact that movies would discard them, but it's like a tease, like oh yeah, something important happens, but not really because we can't like overshadow the next movie.
Yeah, I said that earlier. That's the problem with it taking place when it does, because we know the beginning kind of, and we know the end. The middle's not important. Like, what are they gonna find that's so important? What's the big mystery? We know what happens. Like, we chronologically we know.
And nothing they could tell us would be able to really like make us appreciate 2014 more or King of the Monsters more because they have no involvement really. It's kind of reacting to it. It's not really going to
Yeah.
make it better.
If anything, it makes you appreciate the 2014 one so much more.
Look how much worse it's gotten. He thought it was bad then. You
Yeah.
should be
I'm so sorry, Boring Soldier Man, for all the stuff I said.
apologize to this man.
So I'm looking at the ratings and it has an 84% on Rotten Tomatoes, but it has a 62% on for the audience score. And I don't know about you, Craig, but I've been looking at it over the past couple weeks, and the audience score keeps getting lower and lower by the episode. So
But even like the people who review it, like give it like a positive score, like it's never anything positive. It's like, well, it could be worse. Like that's always like the reviews, like, well, it's all right. It's not the worst thing in the world. Like that's not a good review. I know Rotten Tomatoes works differently, but like it's not like selling it like that. It's a good show. It's like, well, could be worse. Like that's not really a good review. Like that it sounds like a rotten review.
yeah, it's like a backhanded compliment.
Or apparently this guy Matt Simpson from The Sheaf said between the performances, the monsters, and the writing, Apple has another hit in their hands. Like, oh my God.
I think he was paid by Apple.
I don't know. I don't see how this is good. I don't again like I don't see how there's going to be any sort of satisfying conclusion that would make you know almost 10 hours of this suffering worth it.
Like I said, I think, and we'll probably revisit this in 2 weeks because we'll talk about what our next episode's going to be. But I think the big revelation is about the Hollow Earth, and there's probably something stupid, some sprinkles about how Kurt Russell got infected by something in the modern or in the Hollow Earth, and that's why, for him being a 90-year-old man, he looks he looks like he does. You know, he looks as he does. And again, I like you said, you wouldn't have given any thought about it because I didn't either. until they started really making it a point. It's like, well, yeah, it's as you said, to set up and the payoff. They've been
I
they've been
think,
they've been studying him in Japan for
well,
the
he said he was
Hollow
under
Earth
house
effects.
arrest. I
I
mean,
think it's because of that.
I don't know. I mean, but then again, wouldn't he, maybe he wouldn't have told them, but 'cause he said he's under house arrest. But I don't even understand why. Again, like, why is Monarch like the bad guy? Why can't they give this guy like a nice vacation house? Why is he be under house arrest? Oh, he knows too much. Then why don't you just kill him? If you're the bad guys, just kill him.
Yeah, what does he know that's so bad? Again, it's probably going to be revealed at the end, and it's going to be so unsatisfactory. It's going to be bad. Uh, so my impression of my or I should say my final thoughts on the first 5 episodes, Craig. I don't like it. I have a feeling it's going to get worse. Episodes 6 through 10, I feel like are just going to be a train wreck. I I can't recommend this to anybody, especially Godzilla fans, because it's a tease. It's a giant tease. Godzilla's barely in it. To even the people who watch slop like this, the only thing I could even recommend is if is hoping that there's more Godzilla in the show.
Even like the Godzilla stuff, it's like it's not great. I mean, it's stuff we already kind of know. Like,
Yeah, the
so
test.
the first 5 episodes, we're basically seeing, reused footage from 2014, and they show the Castle Bravo test. I mean, that's kind of stuff we already know. Like, that's standard stuff. Like Godzilla, would they tested the nuclear bomb on him? Like, that's like every Godzilla movie.
That was literally in the opening credits of the 2014 one. Was the Castle Bravo test?
Yeah. So that's not really like new stuff. It's like retreading old ground Godzilla, which, I get you, whatever, you're seeing from a different perspective, even though it's lore breaking.
Yeah, the different perspective makes no sense.
So I don't know. I don't get it.
Would you recommend it? I said I wouldn't.
Absolutely not.
Just had to make
What part?
sure.
Like we've been trying to like rip it to shreds.
Yeah, I can't recommend this beyond any stretch of the imagination. This is so bad. Uh, like I said, I thought the human drama or the human plot in Godzilla vs Kong was bad, and believe me, it is bad. This is worse. I can't believe I'm saying that. The people should apologize to Michael Dougherty and Zach Shields, who wrote the script to Godzilla King of the Monsters, because their attempt at human drama and human characters is way better than whatever this is. They should apologize to those people.
Well, I think you should apologize to them also for the fact that movie didn't do well financially. Part of it, I think, is
It was over.
Legendary's fault.
Yeah, they released that in overcrowded summer. That was
Yeah,
100% their fault.
they pushed it back or whatever, but I don't know. I blame people who didn't see that movie. It's all your fault because now we're getting stuff, now we're getting slop like this.
I think this is my theory. Godzilla vs Kong felt like a course correction to Godzilla King of the Monsters. And I don't know if that's true or
100%.
not.
No, it definitely was because I think they were wanting to, you know, listen to the people who, for some people, a lot of the stuff they felt like they were course correcting were from people who watched the movie, like, oh, we need to show more monster stuff. It's like, I don't know, too much family stuff. They got all the family stuff. They showed finally, full fights in daylight, which I don't know why that's a win.
You know,
They're
I,
bringing this
I,
hack to
I,
cut down on the runtime.
Craig, I think we talked about this. I don't remember if it was another episode. I never understood the argument for like people wanting daytime fights in all the Godzilla movies, at least in the Japanese ones. Especially in the Heisei era, it was the final fights were always at night, and then they'd go into the daytime. And the movie would end with it being at dawn. I
I mean,
never understood that
it's like people
complaint.
forgot like things like, drama, lighting, like it's kind of like built up. Like when people fight at night, I feel like it's more serious. Like,
It looks
and
more
then,
dramatic. Yeah.
yeah. And then, it ends with like the sunrise, like, a new day, a new beginning. Like I feel like this is such basic stuff that people who review movies, it always goes over their head somehow. They watch millions of movies and they can't get the easy stuff.
Yeah, you could have more dynamic lighting at night.
Just dramatic, like I don't know, like I'm not very articulate, but I feel like it's very dramatic and it makes for cooler stuff. Like people were complaining about like, King of the Monsters, Godzilla vs. Ghidorah in Antarctica. It's like, oh, it's hard to see because it's dark and it's not, but it's like it's cool. Like you can see when they do the zoom out shot where you see like them like, trying to intimidate each other. Like that's cool. All you see is like their shadow, basically.
Yeah, I never understood like people saying you can't see what's going on. I can't see what's going on in the 2014 one. That one's like just dark. Like I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, but that's a different issue. That's like I don't know. You probably know more about this, but like, you can't see anything at night, not just the fights.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't see anything in that movie. In King of the Monsters, like, yeah, there's rain and there's snow, but there's constant like light going on. Like you can see what's happening.
It's dramatic. It's cool.
Yeah, I
I don't
don't
know, like
know.
most movies, like there's like tons of stuff at night because it's I don't know,
Well, here's the
it's
thing. Here's my
cool.
theory on Rain, because I think if the movie came out in the 90s or 2000s, early 2000s, the Rain would be to try to hide the shoddy effects. But do you
Oh,
know,
of
Craig,
course.
that they do this all the time on movie sets, and I've even witnessed this. When it's at night, they will sprinkle water on streets to help reflect light off the ground to make it look better. They look at any movie that takes place at night, you always see the ground is wet. The street's wet, the sidewalk's wet, everything is wet. It helps with the lighting. That's what I think they're trying to do with King of the Monsters, where it makes the light come out more if everything's wet.
You're probably I mean, you know more than me, so I would say you're probably right.
That's my theory on why they used rain. It's literally look at any movie when at night. It's always wet.
I just think it's cool.
Yeah, I know we went on a tangent, but it's like I was hopeful after King of the Monsters because I thought that was a step in the right direction.
Oh no.
It fixed the problems that the 2014 one had, and yes, it felt like a first draft, but at least it was the human drama was better than King of the or better than the 2014 one. And then we've just gotten trash afterwards. We have gotten complete trash, and not just trash, Craig, trash that gets worse by the installment.
Yes, because I want to say, like, I know we don't like Godzilla vs. Kong, but at least that's 2 hours. This is like
It's
almost
under two
10
hours,
hours.
Craig. It is under 2 hours.
Right.
Adam Wingard made sure to do that. Yeah, that's right.
No, you're right. It's just like this is why it's worse because I have to suffer 10 hours of this, which I think is a million times worse.
And they're picking up a season two. So I'm sure we'll
Are you
have.
joking?
I'm not joking. I'm sure when we in a couple weeks we'll pick this back up again with episode six through
How?
10. I don't know.
Wait, really? I don't see
Yes,
this on the Wikipedia.
yes.
Wait. This is disturbing.
I could have sworn. I hope I'm not. I could have sworn I saw somewhere that they picked up a season two.
Oh my God. I mean, I haven't seen anything yet, but
Could
I
have
guess hopeful.
sworn. I could have sworn. Uh,
Executive producer Matt Fraction says they could keep going as long as people want to keep watching. What can you keep
okay.
doing?
Yeah, all right. Maybe I was lying about that. I thought I could have sworn I saw something that says they picked up. Whatever. The point is, I'm sure we'll probably bring up many of the same points we did in this episode at the end of episode 10. But for the sake of clarity, I hate the first 5 episodes of the show. I think it's pointless, a waste of time. It doesn't bring out anything new. It's poorly done, and it's a tease. Craig, your
It's
final thoughts?
I agree with that, but it's even worse because it contradicts stuff already in
Yes,
long throws.
forgot that too.
And people will say, "Oh, who cares?" But it's like I hate that when they'll
It,
say like,
yeah.
"Oh, who cares about continuity?" It's like, well, like you're telling a story, you want things to make sense. You want things to like, you don't want to be like, okay, well, why is this so drastically different? Like, you can't like redesign a character every movie. Like, oh, it's the same guy. It's like, well, he looks
Well, not
completely
even if
different.
you're telling a story. When you're setting up a universe, a film universe, things have to matter. Things have to make sense. You draw out a map. You have a timeline of events. You just can't contradict stuff because then none of it will matter. Nothing will make sense. Nothing matters. You wasted your time essentially building a universe just to tear it down with one show.
Well, I think it was doomed before this.
Oh yeah, well Godzilla vs Kong already started ruining it.
I don't know.
But
I just because I know like if you bring up to the writer, he'll give you some snarky remark. Oh, you care more about this. You care more about continuity. What an idiot! It's like I do care about continuity because it's I feel like part of this with these shows like if you have restrictions, I think it would help with the storytelling instead as opposed to just doing whatever wherever you want, like just writing garbage. Because if they had a stricter, people, some of them saying, no, you can't do this, I think they would have said, okay, screw it. No more modern day stuff. Let's just focus on the past where we kind of have more free reign, and then we'll work on that. But no, we have the stupid intergenerational stuff, which is garbage.
Yeah, this show is just trash, just complete trash. I'm not a fan of it at all. But I think next week, Craig, we're gonna be doing Rebel Moon, so that's the carryover, and hopefully by then there'll be enough time to do. I don't because I think they've only released 7 episodes as of now.
I know, they better hurry up. My Apple free TV, Apple TV Plus free whatever is running out, so
So
better
hopefully
hurry up
by
and release
then
it.
we'll probably maybe have to do another episode. But the point is, we'll get back to the rest of the show at some point as soon as they're all done being released. But with that being said, Craig, this has been the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I am Colin.
I'm suffering.
So am I. And we will see you next time.